is going to be something that comes not because of industrialization, but simply the size of it at least has something to do with industrialization as well. We're going to see a war begin in 1914 and drag on for 4 years. But this is unlike any other war that we have seen previously. This is a war where we are going to have massive European powers, enormous, the biggest powers the world has ever seen. Not just surely in numbers, but also in their capability to do harm. In that we were talking before about how industrialization allows us to make more products than anyone ever had in the history of mankind. But some of those products are going to be the tools of war. We are going to see war on such a level that people start saying, this is it. This is how the world comes to an end. This is what is prophesied in the Bible. This is the beginning of Armageddon. This is the end of the world. We're going to see just the numbers being staggering at its absolute peak, the top of the top. When the Roman Empire controlled the Mediterranean, the biggest army they could put on the field, the absolute biggest, if everything went right, was probably about 50,000 people. Huge number for 600 AD. Now we're going to be in 1914. The biggest armies in the world are going to dwarf that. 50,000 people is a rounding error compared to these powers. The slaughter is going to be astronomical. So first we have to talk about what gets the Europeans to this point. We have to first talk causes, because by 1914, the Europeans are in a bit of a weird position. They have been at peace for almost 100 years. This is not what the Europeans do. The Europeans are good at one thing, and it's killing each other. And they've been very good at it for a very long time. The Brits and the French, years and years before this, engaged in a war called the 100 Years' War. Guess how long it lasted?
47.
Nope, 136.
Why?
The Europeans go to war with each other all the time because they're simply divided. They have different nationalities, different norms, and different rivalries. Now, this nationalism that they have gone through over the past several hundred years has led them to develop this very compartmentalized ideology. All of these different nations throughout Europe believe that their country, their empire, is superior, in that they are competing against these other Europeans. Now, during this time, there's not a world of just one superpower. It doesn't exist. Europe is divided up into such a level that there are about 5 to 6 major powers that can all claim to be the superior power. Each one of these powers is constantly jockeying for position. For the last roughly 100 years, they've been at peace. Now, without getting into the long and short of it, they put themselves in this weird kind of situation where, after Napoleon's defeated, the Europeans come up with this system. A system that is so complex, the person who put it together is either an absolute genius or completely insane. I still don't know which one to give it. I lean towards genius until his plan falls apart. These rivalries have gotten to a point where the Europeans, some of them have long-standing hatred towards each other. Some of them have hated each other for hundreds of years. At different times, they'll put that hatred on the back burner to deal with a bigger enemy, and then just resume the hatred again. It's just simply what the Europeans do. By the 1900s, we're going to be in a situation where now their empires are expanding, and they're looking to expand throughout Europe. There are some places in Europe that start to get very, very nervous as these empires are looking to expand. They should be. They're on the menu. Some of these areas within Europe that are getting very nervous are some of the smaller countries in Europe. Now, some of these smaller countries have been independent states, some of them for hundreds of years. But as the big empires start to move against them, those smaller countries are going to need some help. They look to ethnic identities to bind themselves with some of the bigger, stronger powers of Europe. One of these ethnic groups is the Slavic people. Now, the Slavs exist in several different parts of Europe, but there's a big concentration of them in southeastern Europe, where many of these smaller countries are getting nervous about being gobbled up. Like I say, they should be nervous. They're on the menu. The Slavs look to a big empire to protect them. Now, there's a big concentration of Slavic people in Western Russia. Russia is on the rise. They're a big, gigantic power. Now, we are going to talk about some of their shortcomings, because they have many. But in Western Russia, these Slavs are going to appeal to their ethnic brethren and say, we're in this together. We need your help. Please, if one of these other empires moves on us, do you promise to protect us? Russia will start by allying themselves with southeastern Europe and say, we promise. We will come to your aid if needs be. Now, before you start saying how great the Russians are for backing up this small ethnic group, they have their own interests as well.